Hello, you're very welcome to this Q&A for Faith and Branko. My name is Alice McDowell and I am so lucky to be joined by the film's director, Catherine Harte. Catherine, thanks so much for joining us and for gifting us with this really beautiful, intimate musical portrait of Faith and Branko.
Thanks. And hi, Alice. Hi, everyone.
Where in the world do we find you at the moment?
I'm in London at the moment,
Okay,
in very muggy, hot London today.
Good.
Yeah.
You're originally from Ireland though, and you've been living over in the UK for some time.
Yeah, I'm from Cork originally, and I've been here for almost 12 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, how were you drawn into this world of Roma music and language and culture in Serbia? And how did you come to meet Faith and Branko?
It actually all started in Cork, believe it or not. I went to a belly dance class in Cork, and my teacher had been at a school in Serbia studying dance. So she recommended it to me. And then a few years later, I found myself in Manchester studying visual anthropology. And then I had a choice of doing fieldwork anywhere about any subject. So I thought I'd like to go to the School for Romani Culture in Serbia because I'd always been interested in their music. And I ended up focusing on how they teach music to non-Roma and everything from the music itself to extra musical things like body language, charisma, energy in music, that sort of thing. So I ended up at the school where there are a group of internationals that come every year to study gypsy music, and they get match made up with local musicians. So Faith was there studying accordion, and Branko was one of the violin teachers. So we all met at the same time, and I just happened to have a camera with me when they started to fall in love. So it was accidental. It all started at it started with the music.
And it was a bit of a passion project, certainly in the beginning, you're a first time filmmaker and you picked a long-term observational documentary to do.
I know.
Which is a big gamble because you don't know what's going to happen.
No.
You don't know if you're going to have a story. But like, at what point did you kind of know that you did have a story and that you had a film?
There were so many ups and downs. I came back after one summer, 3 weeks of filming, and I sat with my friend who's an editor, and then he said, no, you don't have a film here. And I was so disappointed. But he said, you know what, it'll take time, but there's something in it. And then I just kept going back. And then I could tell that there was something there, but the narrative didn't start to become clear until probably years. And it kept changing. There were different issues in their lives. Like it started off with Branko not being able to get a visa, and I thought it might take that route. And then in the end, I just thought they're such strong characters and their music is so amazing. It's much better as a love story than anything else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They are brilliant characters, the two of them. I was really struck by how honest they are with each other and also with the camera. It was a big part of, I guess, letting us into the complexity of their lives, because it'd be very easy to put those two into certain stereotypes. But I think they absolutely transcend those stereotypes. And did this take some time building this trust and honesty, or was this something that was there from the very beginning?
I think it started probably with Faith, but she and I are quite open. So when we met, we clicked, and she would confide in me about Branko, and you see some of it on camera as well, where she's wondering what will happen when she moves in with him, how it's going to turn out. And at the beginning with Branko, I didn't speak Serbian, so it was slower. It was more like energy, facial expressions, but the curiosity was there, and I think they just got used to me, and they're both very open. Yeah. So yeah, it wasn't that difficult. I didn't have to consciously work at them. I didn't have to say like, oh, how can I build trust, or it just kind of happened organically. Yeah.
Did you learn Serbian in order to make this film?
No, I'm not that organized. It was accidental. I picked it up by ear.
Wow.
But even now, I'm not great with grammar. It's more yeah, like the vocabulary, but I can get by, and it definitely helped in terms of communicating with Branko.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. It is an incredibly personal film, and you're very present in it, and you're welcome and invited into so many of these intimate moments in their relationship. Were there some moments where you questioned yourself being in these,
Yeah.
present?
There's some really weird moments where, you know, some scenes that aren't even in it where, well, okay, speaking of one that's in it, like in the taxi when they're arguing, but people are everywhere. Like the taxi driver interferes as well in the conversation. So they're always witnesses. They're not the most private couple, you know. But at the same time, I found it strange. I found it really, really strange, especially when I knew they were arguing, or you know, when there are problems. It just feels a bit yeah, just weird to be a witness to that, to be sitting there wedged into the corner of a car with a camera, and the camera's right next to them, but they start to forget about it because they're so involved in their argument.
Yeah.
But in the positive moment, I think I was more aware of it in moments where they were arguing or upset. It felt weird.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I felt separated because I had this camera in between me and them.
Did you ever put the camera down and say, no, I need to do something else now, or I need to be a friend to Faith or to Branko, or what was that?
I actually had to do the opposite because there were so many times where I didn't film things because I felt bad.
Yeah.
It took me a while to learn to do the opposite, that it's okay to film and still be there as a friend, you know, and hold it for a few seconds and then put the camera down and hug Faith or Branko. But there were a lot of things I missed because I found it too awkward. Like I'm quite a sensitive person, and I had to learn, like, to capture these moments, you have to just do it. And especially because we had spoken about it off camera and they were really okay with me filming everything, like the good and the bad.
Did you sort of have this conversation in your head, I guess, about how it would impact them personally? Like they might say, very open to these things, but I mean, like they definitely expose a lot of themselves, and I'm not saying this wrong. It's actually brilliant to see it, that honesty. There's a lot of things that I'd say most of us would never want anyone to know, let alone the whole world, you know.
Yeah.
But they were just open from the very beginning, you know.
Yeah, but it's not, it is difficult, you know. Even now, Faith, sometimes their trailers, Hot Docs made a trailer where it was really dramatized. It said something like, their music will tear them apart, or love music brought them together, life tears them apart. And Faith was said, oh, I was very upset when I saw the trailer, made me sad, made me reflect on things. And then that made me think, wow, how strange it is. Imagine if everyone had a trailer of their relationship on Twitter or Instagram. It's weird. Yeah. And I think not knowing how other people will interpret it, that is also a bit unsettling for Faith. Branko's less like that. He doesn't really think, he's just proud of it and he likes the attention. But Faith is concerned that she, you know, did wrong. There are things that she did that she feels were wrong. Yeah.
So Faith and Branko, I'm assuming, have seen the film, and you've had this incredible festival run. Have they joined you on the festival journey? I mean, it's probably all been online in a sense.
Yeah. They did one virtual performance for Hot Docs, and they actually did the Q&A for me at Sheffield Doc Fest because my line dropped. So they answered all of my questions and I was like, oh, what are they going to say? But then, yeah, other than that, not live. We're going to have the Serbian premiere, which will be a big one in September. So we're hoping they can come and play at that.
And is this your Irish premiere?
It is, yes. Yeah.
Have they been to Ireland, or is there any plans to bring them over to Ireland?
I always tell them that they should go to Ireland, and they both want to, but they haven't arranged any gigs yet. But I'm sure they would go down really well in Ireland.
Branko seems to have a bit of an affinity with Irish people, and maybe that's because of you, but he brings up a few times throughout the film about how brilliant Ireland is and Irish people are. Is that something, was he exposed to quite a few Irish people over the years coming to the school, or is that just because he...
No, it's mostly me, but it's funny that in Serbia people love Ireland in Serbia. Like I once Googled this word, vatranost, which means fiery and passionate. And then underneath it says Irish. I'm like, oh, that's quite cool. There's like 11 Irish pubs in Belgrade. Yeah. So I think there is a reputation of Irish people as being music lovers, into dance, having fun. Yeah. So that's not just me.
Absolutely. And I mean, there is a resonance in terms of the topic of this film and people traveling to learn the music. I'm one of them. I came to Ireland to learn Irish music and to have this authentic experience in a way. And so I think there is a lot of sort of symmetry between Roma music and traditional Irish music and the people and the love and the joy of music.
Yeah, definitely. And the improvising, like this Irish sessions are quite similar to what they do in the Roma community. Yes. The way of playing, improvising.
So you'll have to make sure they come over to visit.
Definitely.
Visit Galway. It's an observational film, but it's also woven in with these informal kind of interviews, and you're quite an active participant in the film. Katerina, I should be calling you Katerina actually after seeing this film. People acknowledge your presence, they talk to you, we sometimes hear your voice. Was that just something that happened instinctively, or were you sort of trying to keep yourself out of it and then it just you had to put yourself in it in the end, or you didn't really think about it?
It's funny because I don't remember consciously thinking of how I would make it. I think I had the camera and people would always speak to me, and then maybe at the same time I was interested in like Albert Maysles, Sean McAllister, like this kind of direct cinema approach. And I always liked watching films where you hear the filmmaker. I don't know, I just like knowing about that journey as well, but it wasn't conscious, it just happened. I think it's more that I didn't make an effort to step back, which in the end I suppose is more real. Like it suits who I am more, even though I really love watching films that are completely observational on a tripod. You feel like you're a fly on the wall. I love that, but it's just not really who I am. Yeah.
Okay. So it just happened.
It just happened, yeah. But at the same time, I was conscious to cut. I didn't want to put too much of me in there either, because it's not about me. So anytime they mention me, it's kind of incidental. It's not really like the scene isn't about me or anything. It's about them, but our relationship at the same time. Like the trust that's there. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, you filmed over, was it 7 years?
Yeah, 7 years. I actually have a whole other year of footage, but it just didn't fit in the story. It just didn't make sense. It just came to a natural end in the edit after those 7 years.
Okay. So you actually so you've got a whole extra year beyond what we've seen in the film.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe I could do like deleted scenes or something.
Yeah. Did you have an enormous amount of footage from 7 years?
Not really. I think I only had about 40 or 50 hours.
Okay. That's for a kind of semi-observational doc.
Yeah, I think because I wasn't there that much. So when I say 7 or 8 years, people are like, wow, that's crazy, you spent that much time. But at the same time, I was working and studying, and I had a whole life and other things going on. I was just going there for a few weeks whenever I could, maybe 1 or 2 weeks at a time, twice a year.
Yes, yeah.
So
it's a Serbian, the Serbian Film Fund came on board to kind of fund the documentary, or were you looking at any places, or did they just hear wind of what you were doing and kind of come?
No, I had to apply, and it was my 3rd time applying. Okay. So I approached a Croatian producer who put me in touch with a Serbian producer, and they advised that I go for money in Serbia before anywhere else. And in the end, it was the only funding we got. But it helped. It basically paid for post-production.
Yes, yeah.
I was able to get an editor on board and help me with all the rushes. Some of it I didn't even understand, so that was good.
Exactly, yeah. Big challenge with so much of the film.
Yeah.
Being in, I guess, Romani language as well as Serbian.
Yeah. So I had been learning a little bit of Romani when I went to the school. So the aunt and granny speak to me in Romani, and Faith doesn't understand that. So that's when they use Romani to gossip about her. But I was by no means fluent in either of them, so I needed help. I would get the gist of a conversation, and then sometimes someone could say 2-3 words that make a huge difference to the meaning. Yeah.
Talking of auntie and grandmother, my gosh, I mean, wow, there's something. The granny especially, I mean, even you just totally fall in love with her, despite her very indiscreet language.
I know, everyone loves her. It's sad, actually. She actually died.
Did she?
So, yeah, she never got to see the film. It's a shame.
Okay, oh,
Yeah,
that's sad. But what
I know, and she was such a big presence.
What a legacy she has on the screen thanks to your film.
I know, I know. Yeah, she was a real character.
Yeah. And did Auntie get to see it?
I don't think so, but I think Branko's aunt probably has some kind of undiagnosed mental illness. So she has mood swings and so, yeah, I don't know. She's a tricky lady. I'd like to do a screening in the village. We're going to have a screening in Belgrade, but if we can't get everyone from the village to go there, then I'll have to bring it to them.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have a laptop or anything, so I don't think she's seen it with Branko.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you mentioned before that you have a whole other year of footage, but I wanted to ask you about how you kind of came up with this ending, which it doesn't give too much away. It's quite ambiguous. Like what, how did you know that this was the end? Or
I think I like films with open endings.
Yeah.
And I felt like it suited their story very much because they don't have final endings. Like there are a couple that break up and get back together, and you just never really know what will happen. So I felt like it was really representative of who they are. And I'm just wondering if this is a spoiler, but I'll carry on.
Everyone has seen the film now, I think.
So it just felt natural in that moment. Like, okay, this feels like the end. It just felt like the end. And yeah, I wanted to end it on music as well, because that's what brought them together in the first place. So you get this sense that whether they stay together as a married couple or not, it doesn't matter, because they've created this music together and they'll always be connected in that way.
Well, that was kind of my final question, was about music. I always say that learning music is like learning a language, and in a way, like, it's such a force, and that musical language between them never breaks down, even though other parts of their relationship kind of does. And what do you think this says about music, or what does it say about us? Like, can music transcend the spoken language and all other types of communication? Or, I mean, this, I guess, relates a bit more to your research in looking at the whole picture of how we communicate, cross-cultural communication.
I think so I asked Faith in the film if she would be with Branko if he wasn't a musician, and she says no, but then she says, well, he wouldn't really be Branko without music. And it's the same for Faith, that music is so much part of who they are, and creating music that no matter what happens between them in their personal lives, they'll still want to create together because it just works. So
it's pure magic when you see them, and that never goes away despite what's happening with them.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost just like another aspect of, like you could have a person that has a really I don't know, someone that has a temper and shouts at you sometimes, and then they have this other side that's lovely. It's like another side, so they take off that hat and put on the music hat and just carry on, and they forget about it doesn't affect the flow of music between them if they've had an argument. Not at all. Yeah,
I find a lot of hope in that. I don't know. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's beautiful to witness. But listen, we'll wrap it up. I just wanted to say a big thank you for joining the Q&A. It was really wonderful to chat to you. And a big congratulations on your film. We can't wait to see you and Faith and Branko back in Ireland, back in Galway at some point.
Well, my family are from the west of Ireland. My dad's from Mayo, so I'll have to go there sometime.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, Catherine or Katerina, and have a lovely rest of your day.
Thanks.
Thanks.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.